Hey guys, how do we keep you dirty off-road? Welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we're going to finally give you my thoughts on that Dirk King kit we covered a few weeks ago. Now, a lot of you guys are wondering, why is it taking so long to put this video out? It's a couple reasons. First of all, my laptop choked on the video. I actually filmed this with Pedro from Dynamic Weapon Solutions. Filmed it as a multicam kit, with multicam clip with a couple of different angles so that you guys wouldn't see a static image the whole time. And it was about an hour long, condensed down from about an hour and a half conversation with Pedro where we reviewed the footage. And just my laptop couldn't take it. It just couldn't take it. It was completely overwhelmed by it. After multiple attempts, 2 weeks of just editing, and another week to 2 weeks of trying to just get the video to render, my laptop couldn't do it. On top of that, Pedro got a little bit of a cold feet too.
I don't know what to do with my hands.
Okay. And I can't blame him, right? He's got a business to run. Sometimes being honest carries a lot of feedback. And man, there was a lot of feedback in the last video, even though I didn't say anything. So in this video, we're going to give you guys my thoughts. We're going to do this from a slightly different perspective. I have a lot of strong opinions on this kit, but for some reason, a lot of you guys thought I don't like this kit, which is not true. I actually do like this kit because of the price point and because of what you can do with it. I just don't like the owner, and I don't like how it's advertised. It's not a long travel kit. That's it. That's my only gripes with the kit. So in this video, instead of just focusing on the Dirk King kit, I'm going to show you guys how I evaluate a kit that I'm going to be running myself on the trails. So a lot of this is going to be my opinions based on running the trails, running Raptors for a couple years now, being out there, being the lead truck, breaking stuff all the time, seeing others break stuff all the time, and consolidating all that knowledge and lessons learned so that you guys can see how I assess a kit and areas to focus on for conversations you want to have with your builder. So we're not going to solely focus on Dirk King. Dirk King is going to be our primary example, but we're also going to cover RPG, we're going to cover SEC, we got a Blitzkrieg truck here, we got Evil truck. So we're going to show you guys kind of the lessons learned and really areas you want to focus on, areas you want to look into when you're doing your trucks. Sometimes it may not be in your budget to cover the weak points, but I also understand that not everybody has the budget to cover every single little weak point. So look at it in stages, look at what you're doing, and be honest with yourself and be honest with your builders on what you want to do with your trucks. And I hope this video helps you guys have those discussions. And again, use this as a guide. Use this as a guide. This is not calling out Dirk King. Dirk King's a solid company. Now, what are we going to cover in this video? Well, we're going to first start off with the Dirk King kit. That is the baseline. I promised you guys a review and my thoughts on that one. So we're going to give you guys a walkthrough of that kit. We're going to talk about the problems with that kit, which is only one, really. It's the way it's marketed, so we're going to go over that. We're going to see the kit in action, so we're going to take it through a couple of basic obstacles, small jump, whoops, and a wash, and see how it reacts, and break down that footage. And then I'm going to give you guys my thoughts on the kit and areas that I would focus on because of the off-roading that I've done and the experiences that I've had. And again, first off, guys, I don't hate this kit. I don't hate this kit. It's a solid kit for what you get. When you guys see the footage, you'll be surprised at what it can do. And right off the bat, after the first obstacle, I was impressed with the kit. Despite its lower travel numbers and all that stuff, it did pretty good. The biggest problem with this kit is the way it's marketed. If you look at the website, it's called a long travel kit. I have a problem with that because how can it be considered long travel when in its form, I think it's set up for about 12 inches of travel, is less travel than a stock Raptor? There's many definitions out there on what long travel is. Every company has their own things. There's a lot of different terms out there from both kit, mid travel, and all that stuff. Let's first start off with my definition of what is long travel and what is mid travel and all that. When the Raptor came out in 2010, the Raptor really redefined the terms of what stock, mid travel, and long travel. When it first came out, actually, it was considered a factory long travel truck. Gen 1 was very capable, and there was nothing else like it on the road. Gen 1 started off with around 12 inches of travel up front. Gen 2 upped that to about 13 inches of travel. And then the Gen 3 has really stepped it up to about 15 inches of travel, which is very close to what most mid-travel kits get. But that is stock. That's a stock vehicle. The one you see behind you is not stock. This right here is a mid-travel. What's considered mid-travel is you gain more travel by increasing the width of the truck. So you do longer upper and lower control arms so you get more width. Ideally, you want to do an upgraded spindle knuckle as well in there so that you have that extra strength. And you increase the travel by going wider, but keeping the stock shocks. For example, on the Gen 1, it's a 6-inch stroke. On the Gen 2, it's an 8-inch stroke. You still keep that stock stroke. You do more travel by going wider. Long Travel takes everything you did on a mid travel, you know, going wider for more travel, but you also upgrade the shock stroke and you replace the shock bucket with a tower. And the goal here is to do a longer shock stroke. In the case of a Raptor, it would be like a 10 or a 12-inch shock stroke so that you can do more travel. And most long travel kits are doing 16, 17, some as high as 20s of suspension travel to get that name Long Travel. Dirk King calls their kit Long Travel because they don't just work on Raptors. In fact, Dirk King doesn't specialize on Raptors. Dirk King specializes on Toyotas, General Motors, and Rams. Yeah, I know you guys watching this are like, are there other trucks out there? There are. And that's where Dirk King specializes. They make a great kit for the Tacomas that does 13 inches of travel. And because a Tacoma weighs almost 2,000 pounds less than a Raptor, it's an extremely capable rig. But in a world where the Raptor exists, the whole idea of what's mid-travel, what's long travel got completely redefined. Again, because of the travel numbers, right? The stock Raptor, the first one, had almost 12 inches. In the current gen, the Gen 3, has 15 inches of travel up front. So when you get an aftermarket kit that comes out for the F-150 and it only does 12 inches of travel, you can't really call it long travel. I think the proper nomenclature for this kit should be Raptor Swap Alternative. And based on what you're going to see today, it performs on par, if not better, than a stock Gen 2 Raptor that has about 13 inches of travel. It's a very impressive kit, especially for your Raptor swap guys. There are other issues there, though, and we're going to go over that at the end of the video once you guys have had a chance to see the whole clips, you know, because the economics of it is something you should look at, too, because it's not just the kit and that's it. Now let's go ahead and do a walkthrough and show you guys what this kit is and some things to look out for just from a static kit. It is called Dirk King's F150 Long Travel Kit. It is about 3/4 of an inch wider than a stock Raptor, but it's about stock Raptor width. It is 12 inches of travel. It is actually strapped to 12 inches of travel. I think the owner told us that it could do up to 13, but it's strapped to 12 inches to preserve the axles. It does retain the stock F150 buckets, so that means your shock stroke is limited to 6 inches of travel. It's using 2.5-inch coilovers with a 3-inch bypass. Again, 6-inch stroke there. It's using wider arms, extended tie rods, extended axles. They're actually part of the kit. You can order it with the kit. And it's using the stock F150 spindle. That is not a Raptor spindle. Now, there's a couple issues that I have with this kit right off the bat. And the first one being retaining that stock spindle. So if you look at that first part of the kit, it leverages the stock spindle. I've seen those break on just regular Raptors. And this is not even the reinforced Raptor spindle. At least it doesn't look like it's the reinforced Raptor spindle. It could be, I'm not sure. I didn't confirm this with the owner. But even if it was a Raptor spindle, they break, they bend. Those cast pieces, they are fairly strong, but as your confidence grows, and a kit like this Dirk King kit will improve your confidence, you will damage that. I know I bent mine. I've seen others bend it on the trails. I've seen others actually break the spindle on the trails. And when you look at other manufacturers, like Camberg, for example, Camberg's mid-travel kit takes advantage of the spindle as well, the stock spindle. Even they have seen that it's a weak point of these kits. And recently, as early as November 2022, they released a brand new spindle kit that's a whole lot stronger than the stock one. So when you're doing these kits, there's nothing wrong with it. It's just something to look at, right? Because as you start going faster, you start getting more confident, that's going to be a weak point that you're going to break. The next issue that I have here is the stock-ish tie rods. Now, this is kind of a back and forth, right? I'm actually a big fan of keeping the steering as stock as possible on these trucks because the most common upgrade that people do is they upgrade the tie rods and go too strong. Like you guys have seen it, FCC, RPG, they do those end-to-end tie rods. They go all the way to the steering rack. And they're really strong. The Ford steering rack is actually pretty sensitive, and it's the most common problem of issues with these trucks. Doesn't matter if it's a Gen 1 or a Gen 2, and you guys have seen my issues with the Gen 2. Those tie rods are too strong, and they communicate all that back, and what that results in cracked and broken steering racks. It's very common. If you were to replace a broken steering rack, that can be over $2,000, $2,500 to replace a steering rack. So my recommendation is to go with something a little bit more weaker so that it can take the hits. So for example, SVC does the tie rod ends. So you upgrade that, you still get the double shear and all that stuff. It keeps the weakness where it needs to be so that if you're on the trails, a tie rod bends. And if a tie rod bends, you can bend that back into place. Or if it breaks, it's a cheap repair, a couple $100, and you're back on the trails. You can fix that on the trails. If you break your steering on the trails, you're screwed. Even if some of the groups have the extra steering rack, you're still going to have issues because it requires programming, especially on the Gen 2s and the newer F-150s. So again, this is one of those things where it just sticks out to me. That one's a little bit weak because it has that two-step setup right there. It's the stock tie rod, so it's weaker than even the Raptor one. So I recommend going with more like tie rod ends. I think SVC, Camberg, all the manufacturers make them. Don't go overboard here with the end-to-end tie rod all the way to the rack. Not only is that more expensive, it's too strong. your racks are going to fail, and those joints wear out really quick. Those Heim joints, they're really great for off-roading, they're really flexible, but they only last about a quarter or an eighth of the time that your typical sealed joint ends will last. So keep that in mind in your builds, right? Because that's an extra cost you're going to have to go through as well. Next area we want to cover here is the slot delete. Now, if you look at his slot delete, it's only welded on 4 corners. It's not all the way welded all the way around. Now, this is not a Dirk King slot delete. This is actually Fout slot delete, and according to the installation instructions that he got, that's all that was required. This is the minimum required to install it. If you're going to do a slot delete, I highly recommend you have that welded all the way around. And the reason for that is moisture. You don't want to have the ability to moisture to get back in there and rot your truck from the inside out. And that's what will happen here. Moisture will get in there, rot it out, and rust it all the way out. Now, the owner has plans for this truck. He has plans to go big with this truck. So a lot of this setup is meant to be more temporary. So I think that's why that's like that, so that they have the ability to cut out and do something else. I recommend doing this as the absolute minimum for your builds because this is the weakest point on the truck. One of the most common damage the stock Raptors face is damaged lower control arm mounts. See it all the time. They bend really easy. And this is one of those areas that I've had a hard time to have shops understand the need to reinforce this area. SVC only does a slot delete. They don't do a full plate reinforcement, which I think that's not enough for most of us. I think that needs to be fully reinforced. Other companies like RPG do a slot delete kit that does the whole thing, right? RPG, I think Forged Off-Road is the same thing. Companies like Forged Off-Road and Crazy House Customs will allow you to pick the level of reinforcement you want on there, because you do need reinforcement on those lower control arms because they are the weakest point on these trucks. You need to do triangles, you need to do some boxing and all that stuff, not just the slot delete. So like look at Crazy House Customs. Crazy House Customs is a really good kit where you can pick level 1 all the way up to level 3 and do some proper reinforcement there. Other companies like HM actually include all that reinforcement as part of their kit, and it's one of the reasons why I love that company. I had a really hard time getting SVC or RPG to understand the need for extra reinforcement. They just didn't want to do it. They didn't see the need for it. But yet I was out there bending my lower control arms. I was seeing the guys running with me doing the same, and I wanted a kit to really reinforce that. So when I went to HM, everything I wanted reinforced on my truck, the base part of his kit, and that's one of the reasons why I like HM's kit so much. All right, let's move on. The next area of concern is frame plating. If you look at this shock tower setup, he's got the main shock and the bypass, and there's no frame plating for that frame section between the cab and the shock tower. This is actually very common. It's a weak point on these trucks. That section of the frame is designed to cave in on itself and bend out of the way. It has to do with the whole crash rating of the front end. The front end is designed to bend out of the way and put the engine underneath you, so in case of an accident, the engine tucks in and it doesn't go into the cab. I talked to a few shops about this. I remember talking to SVC about this kind of reinforcement, and even Dirk King has the same view on this, right? This kit doesn't pull enough travel for you to warrant it, right? But I bent this section and damaged my frame on 17 Raptor. Now this happened very early on. It was a few months after I got it. I was still learning how to drive that truck. I went straight into a wash. I freaked out. I hit the brakes. The suspension was compressed. I hit the obstacle and I bent my frame. That section of the frame caved in, and yeah, it was a very expensive day. This kit is very capable. This kit's gonna allow you to get out there and do quite a little bit more than what a stock Raptor can do. So that section is gonna be damaged at some point. So I recommend reinforcing that. And if you do it too, make sure you do rosettes. Some companies will just do the plate and that's it, but that only takes care of the outside. That still doesn't prevent the frame from caving in. So make sure you do some rosettes. That's circles that are welded into the face of the frame to really help reinforce it. Another area that I have a concern with this kit is the shock tower. Now this is a very common shock tower design. You see a lot of kits running this shock tower setup, and I'll tell you, it's a weak point. It's something that I inspect on my truck as well, because the SVC shock tower design is very similar to this. I think this one right here might be more bolt-on. I think only the bottom piece is welded on. The SVC kit is welded on top and welded on bottom. I know for a fact from having my friends running the SVC kit for a couple years, seeing RPG guys running a similar setup, all these kits break because there's nothing preventing that corner, this little top corner right here of the shock tower, from bending in with all the load you're putting on it. Usually, like on a true long travel kit, you'll see a strut brace going over the engine to prevent that extra moving into the engine so that the metal doesn't fail. This kit doesn't have that, and most other kits don't. Like the SVC kit doesn't, the RPG kit doesn't, and all of those kits break that on the regular. You don't believe me? Go do a search on social media, you'll find them. I know I've had multiple friends break it on the trails. Some it would break just right after the welds, right? The metal would break on the top and the bottom, both sides. I've even had guys completely rip off the whole top of the shock bucket because of the extra lateral movement that happened there. This is something to have a conversation with your builder. If you're just starting out, this is probably a good setup just to kind of get you going. Make sure you inspect it regularly so it doesn't get damaged. But as you start picking up your speed, as you start getting more confident, you need to start looking at upgrades to prevent that. My truck doesn't have it. It's an area that I inspect. I do expect it to fail at some point, and I will be working with the shop to either add a strut over the top, shock brace, or go with another kit that has reinforcement that doesn't allow that movement. And if you look at some companies like HM, I know HM, he does that as part of his base kit. His long travel kits, they all have strut bracing. I know Evil, if you're going for their more race kits, they have the strut bracing. And I think even Dirk King, in their race kits, not their regular long travel kits, in the race kits, they also do strut bracing as well. It's not something that most shops will do for you too. So it's something that, again, another frank conversation you got to have. Hey guy, I'm going to be doing over 70 on the trails. Can you reinforce it? Another area that I want to call out here that's pretty interesting about this kit is if you look here, he doesn't have to do as much trimming as the Gen 2 guys have to do in order to clear 37s. And there's a couple reasons for that. One is this kit is designed to move the front end forward about an inch to allow you to get more clearance. But two, and more importantly, is it limits up travel. Now this is due to the design of the kit and the fact that he's using a 6-inch choke shock. We actually saw this on the trail. This truck doesn't get anywhere near the same tuck as a stock Raptor does, or even my mid-travel truck does. That up travel is limited by the design. So a lot of you guys that want to run without major modifications to the truck, like trimming all that whole area out to do 37s, go check out that video if you haven't seen it yet. You don't have to do that with this kit, which is, I think it's a good thing. You know, not everybody likes to cut up their trucks. So that is one of the good things where you can safely run 37s without having to do major modifications to your cab and all that stuff. You do have to do a little bit of trimming on the bottom, but that's normal with 37s. It's just great that you don't have to do all the pinch weld. Now, another drawback here though, is he doesn't have liners. I highly recommend you run liners on your truck because of all those sensitive cables that are there. Now, this owner, he has, again, I've told you guys at the beginning, he has promised to go much bigger with this truck, so that's why he doesn't have liners now. When he does finish, he will have liners to have all that protected. But you want to make sure this area is protected because if you go out there on a muddy day, or you know, if you just have a mistake on the trail and you run over a bush or something like that, you can cause a lot of damage if you don't have liners on here. And in fact, on this day, we did test out his suspension. He went all the way bottom and he did break that zip tie. So we had to spend a little bit of time correcting that and tucking it in a little bit further so he didn't have a bad day. Not a big deal because of the design of this kit. It doesn't get as much tuck. It's just one of those things where if you're going to build your trucks, you know you're going to be in mud. You know you may screw up one day. All of us screw up, so that's a guaranteed. Make sure you protect that. I highly recommend fender liners here. They're worth the hassle of installing them. Now, another thing I want to call out here is this truck has ADS tuned shock. Now, I'm a big fan of ADS. I know multiple people that run ADS. It's a good shock company. I primarily know them more for their tunes. Their base tunes are actually really good and far closer than, say, Fox's base tune. Fox's base tune, which is my truck has, it's crap, right? I mean, like anybody that asks me about shocks, what shocks should you get? I always kind of bring up the fact that the shocks don't matter. What matters is the tune. You could spend $20,000 right on a shock package for your truck to do the shocks all the way around, but that doesn't matter unless you pay somebody to do a proper shock tune for your build setup. Now that's something that I've been struggling with my truck. I do carry a lot of gear. I do have a lot of stuff. By the next shock rebuild, I will be paying a company to do a full shock tune to the truck because we've tried dialing it in by just messing with the tubes and it's not enough. My truck needs shim stacks. We may need different kinds of oils. We may need different kinds of springs. So I want a shock company to really dial my truck in so that it rides smooth when I need it to, and it really can handle the big obstacles, but that's expensive. A proper shock tuning session where they're taking them apart and really adjusting shim stacks and all that stuff can be $4,000 and more. That's what I'm looking forward to. So it's the same as a rebuild, so I'm planning to do mine as part of a rebuild. Okay, now the rear suspension is actually pretty good. I'm not too many things to call out here. It's using ADS tuned shocks. They're 3.0 bypass, 5.2 bypass shocks back here. They're using the DK bed cage. I actually like the design of this bed cage. The only concern I have with it is that it only uses 4 points on the bed. Other racks, like the ones from RPG, tend to spread the load a little bit better and have multiple points than just the bed bolts. And even SVC's cage, which is what I'm running, they only do the 4 bed bolts, and it is plenty strong. You don't really need more than that, but there's some comfort in the extra reinforcement that RPG's RST18 kit, for example, has. And even if you look at other companies like the HM kit, has a ton more reinforcement back there because they know those guys are going to be pulling more travel. They're going to be doing more, so they add more. It more spreads the load so that you don't damage anything. This truck has the aluminum bed because it's I think it's a 2019. The small points I think is a drawback, but you should be okay. Again, it just depends on how much much he pushes it. Now, I think he said he's running a 2.5 inch bump stop. This doesn't look like a 2.5. I think it's closer to a 2. I could be wrong, but I do like the bump stop design because it's a full clamshell. My favorite bump stop kit is that from Icon because of how it goes all around the frame instead of just the face, and it has the cross spacing to avoid the warping. RPG kit is good, but it has a tendency to move up a little bit. Same thing with the SVC kit. That's what my truck has. It has a tendency to move a little bit, right, because of the force you're putting. I think a kit like this is far better because, again, it grabs on both sides of the frame because the frame's pretty thin. So it's a much better design than your typical bump stop kit. So not much bad there. The only thing that stuck out to me here is the shock mount. I think the shock mount is a little funky. Typically, you see the shock mount come out about the same distance, but it stays level with the axle or lower. I've seen a lot of kits out there, and for the most part, they all stay about the same level with the axle or lower. Here, because they're using a 16-inch stroke, I think, they brought the shock mount up, and to me, that seems like it might put more leverage on there, might twist it. Not sure. There is a video out there of the owner of this truck where early on, he damaged his axle. He was running the stock 8.8 axle, and it twisted and bent, and it was leaking oil. Not sure if this is the cause. I don't know. I don't think it is, but it stuck out to me. This is an odd design. Usually when a kit like this, I think it pulls 19 inches of travel. When a kit like this is done up, they'll do a longer clevis. That little part at the bottom of the shock, they'll extend it out so that you can get that extra travel. Looks to here like they use the mount to come up to get that extra travel. A lot of you guys may look at this and go, well, 3.0s, you should be going bigger and all that stuff. Honestly, I've seen this truck perform. It does pretty good with the 3.0s. And honestly, on a Raptor, 3.5 is about the biggest you should go. Mine has 4s and they're way tuned down, and it's not worth it going for the bigger shock. You're not getting much in it. These trucks are relatively light. You don't need to go for a much bigger shock. More to talk about here. He is running a stock F150 axle. It's not a Raptor axle, and he has upgraded it to 410 gears, which is a good thing, right? It'll run better. Not necessarily great with 37s. 37s, you want to go higher, like 455s or 488s gearing, but again, he spent the time to upgrade it, which is good. He is going to eventually change that out to a full built, right, with the plans that he has going. The one drawback of using a stock F150 axle is that it's not wide enough. So unfortunately, he went the route of using spacers. Now, again, he's building this truck. He's going to go bigger, so that's why he's using spacers. Everything here is temporary. I don't recommend spacers of any kind. One of the most common damages you see guys have in Baja is they break the studs. And if you have spacers, you're even more prone to breaking the studs on the wheels. So I don't recommend it, guys. Don't run spacers on an off-road truck. You putting a shit ton of load on these things. Don't give yourself another failure point. He's going to upgrade later, so he needs something temporary, right? It doesn't make sense to spend $5,000 on a takeoff axle. And honestly, they're hard to come by. Nobody gives up their takeoff axles. It's a very small niche crew that upgrades the axles because they start at $12,000 for an upgraded built housing. They're expensive. They're very, very expensive. All right, so that's it for the walkthrough, guys. Now let's take a look at the video footage of this truck on the trails. Now, you guys heard me talk about it at the beginning. This is more of a Raptor swap alternative. So the only real comparison here is comparing this truck to another stock Gen 2 Raptor. Because Gen 2 Raptor is probably the closest. It's the closest in year. It's the closest in capabilities, right? And that's really its best comparison. So we decided to take it through 3 obstacles. The first one being a small jump. Small jump is really just designed to see if the suspension tucks in all the way and just kind of see how it tries to stay level and all that stuff. Overall, I think it did really good here, but let's go ahead and take a look at the footage. Stock Raptor going through here. This is my 2020 Raptor from a few years ago. As you can see, it leans a little bit to one side. This is a live valve truck. It does pretty good with it, but again, it leaned way too much to one side. You can see it there in the video. It's not ideal. So let's take a look at his truck going through there. Looks really good. Yeah. Now you guys heard me say that. That was pretty good. Truck stayed a whole lot level than it should have. He doesn't have live valves, and that thing stayed level like if it was an SDI E-click system. So that was pretty impressive right off the bat to see it handle like it was nothing. He wasn't using the full capability of the suspension. It handled that great. And when you look at it side by side, the difference is pretty evident. Mind you, the angle's a little bit different, but it handled it way better than the stock Raptor. The stock Raptor comes very close to full tuck here. If you look at the amount of tuck that they're getting, the Gen 2 Raptor is getting more tuck than the Dirk King Long Travel kit. And that has to do with just the way the kit's designed, right? Gen 2 has 8-inch stroke. The Dirk King truck has a 6-inch stroke. So it limits the amount of up travel. It's a good and a bad, right? If you want to run 37s without trimming, it's not a bad thing. On a Gen 2, in order to run 37s, you have to do a lot of trimming because of the extra tuck. That's the only thing to really point out here, guys. I think the Dirk King truck did better than the stock live valve truck. Now, let's see how that compares to a mid-travel truck. In this case, we're going to go over my truck. This isn't a direct comparison, right? Because Dirk King's kit is not long travel. My truck is a true mid-travel. The SVC kit should be getting about 14 inches with the Gen 1 because of the shorter shock. With the Gen 2, it should be getting closer to 16 inches. So let's take a look at that. Don't mind the noise. I lost a few bolts from my skid plate. Now when you see those two side by side, you'll see that the Gen 2 Raptor has a whole lot more droop than the Dirk King Long Travel. So the SVC Mid Travel has way more droop than Dirk King's Long Travel. And again, this is one of the reasons why it shouldn't be called Long Travel when a Mid Travel kit can outperform it. Both of these trucks are not fully tuned yet. They've gone through some dialing in on the tubes, but they're not fully tuned. Let's do that disclaimer. SVC tried to tune mine and they did some dialing in and we kind of just dialed it out. It didn't do good and dialed it back in and she did okay. Yeah. See, my truck still leans a little bit because, again, I'm dealing with the Fox base tune, which is not the best. He's staying level. In this trip, we also had some Blitzkrieg trucks. This is a true long travel kit, and it's a big difference. That kit had suspension to spare. It uses the most. It was just cool. I'm going to throw it in because that was just a cool kit. So, right, guys, after the first obstacle, you guys heard me say it in the video. Did pretty good. I was impressed. It did better than a stock Raptor. Again, I don't know why everybody thinks I hate the kit. It did great. Next obstacle is what I call a wash, like a surprise wash. I use this one because this is one that gets everybody. Going down the trail, you think you're okay, and it just surprises you. You don't have enough time to brake or slow down. You just have to take it at speed, because if you brake, you will cause some damage. This obstacle is designed to find the bottom of the suspension. Stock Raptor bottoms out here, big time. Every time we go through here, we bottom out a stock Raptor. Doesn't matter if it has 35s or 37s. So I wanted to see what it does. To give you guys a baseline, here's how a stock Gen 2 with live valves handles it. Again, we're using all full suspension. It goes tuck. Back end goes tuck. It overloads the suspension. It's a really good test. We got some really cool drone footage here too. Big shout out to the drone pilot. That was some cool footage. Now, you guys actually heard me say it because it sounded loud. He bottomed out both the front and the back suspension. It was quite painful to watch. And if you look at it slow-mo, that right there is full tuck. And then you can see immediately the back end slaps down. Used every last bit of suspension travel there. Completely overloaded it. Performed on par with what the stock Raptor does. They were going about the same speed. Maybe the Dirk King truck was maybe going 2-3 miles per hour a little bit quicker, but they were going about the same speed and full bottom. Now, I do want to point something out here. See how his tires getting deformed right there? Now, this is a discussion I have with a lot of people. When you're doing pressure, keep in mind the terrain you're on. If you're on hard packed dirt, don't be going 20 psi. He was running about 20 psi. You can see how his tire deformed right there. That kind of deformation, if there was any kind of rock or anything like that, it would have resulted in a flat, and he would have damaged the hell out of that wheel. He is running bead locks, so the damage would have been less, but I don't recommend running 20 psi on trails like this. You should be running higher. I used to run 20 psi and I bent 3 forged wheels. Yes, they were bead lock. And ever since then, I started running higher pressure after talking to a few race teams and recommend, hey, look, when we're out there running these races, we're going fast. The only thing pressing the wheel is the pressure in the tire. If you get a flat, you could do a lot of damage with the speeds we're hitting. So you need some protection there. And they recommend running 28 to 32 psi. They actually run higher. Mind you, they're also running race tires so they can deal with a whole lot more. But ever since then, I switched over to 28 psi is what I run and haven't had a single issue with blowouts like that. That's what I run. It is a little bit harsher, but you're not damaging wheels. I was damaging wheels on the regular. Now let's see how the SVC Mid Travel handle that. When I first got this truck, this was one of the first obstacles I took, and I was blown away. It's like there's nothing there. The truck handles it like nothing. There's suspension travel to spare. It doesn't bottom out. Yeah, you kiss the bumps, but it doesn't bottom out. It is amazing. And when you compare the kits side by side, you really start seeing the difference, right? Again, this is where I say that this is more like a stock Raptor. Stock Raptor performance is pretty much the same with the exception of the rebound. The stock Raptor rebound a whole lot more than the Dirk King truck with the ADS shocks. And that has to do with ADS's tune. ADS has a much better tune, so it's not going to rebound as much. The stock live valve tune sucks, and look at how much rebound there is already. Very similar performance. In some ways, you have a little bit more protection with the Dirk King setup than you do with the stock Raptor, so that's a good thing. Now, when you see it compared to a true mid-travel kit, that's when you really start seeing the differences. The mid-travel kit has so much more suspension travel to spare. He's already at full tuck, I still have suspension travel to spare, right? You could see it in the shadows and all that stuff. He's at full tuck. I'm not. Then the back ends come down. Again, he's getting way more tuck than I am in the back because the front end completely overloaded the back. And it just goes to show you, again, this is why it shouldn't be called a long travel when a mid-travel kit can outperform it. And obviously, we got to show you guys what the Blitz kit did through there. It was impressive. It's like there's nothing there. Now, this truck is in tune. We found this out later after the fact. Yeah, this is a relatively fresh build. He hasn't gone through and done a proper tuning section, so that's why you say it performed like that. We also had Pedro's truck to go through here, full link truck, and his truck was, there was like nothing there. I think he even said it. I don't know what you guys are talking about. There was nothing there. And to his truck, it really wasn't. It just kind of floats through that whole area. The next obstacle is whoops. Again, disclaimer here, his truck's not tuned. My truck's not tuned. My truck's had some dialing in, but it's not tuned. It's not tuned at all. My truck needs a proper tune. His truck hasn't been tuned either. I think he's only done a few. I think one day with Dirk King it broke. And then after we filmed this video, he actually went through and worked with them to do some more dialing in. It performed better than what you're going to see here. But despite that, you are going to see some limitations of the kit. So I still wanted to show you. Another disclaimer here, stock Raptor can't do this. A stock Gen 2 going through these whoops at these speeds, it can't do it, and we don't have a comparison of a stock truck doing this because it can't do it. And this is one of the benefits of a kit like this. Now, he ended up doing 2 passes. His first pass was awful, as you guys can see it. He hung a little bit too much to the left, and he's just bouncing like crazy in that back end, and it just looked awful. So I wanted to make sure this kit got a proper shake. So, considering how bad that first run looked, I asked him to take a slightly different line. I asked him to try to stay more center on the trail to try to get a little bit better performance out of it. He did say a little bit center, and he also picked up a little bit of speed, and that helped, and the second pass looked a little bit better. Again, with some tuning, which he has done, it has improved it a little bit, and it's not as bouncy in the back. It's not bucking so much. Much better. Now let's take a look at those 2 passes together. In person, they look very different. But when you look at the footage together, they looked actually very similar, which is kind of surprising. And it had to do with just the line that he picked. This has to do with experience, right? You got to learn your truck. You got to see his capabilities. And as he was going slower, he was just rebounding less, and it performed much better. Let's take a look at how the SVC truck handled that compared to the Dirk King. Completely different results. Now, mind you, the SVC truck is carrying a little bit more speed because it can, right? It has more travel to work with. But there's a couple things that I want to show you guys here, right? So first, right off the bat, after that first hill, you can immediately see that the mid-travel truck has more droop. They go into the first obstacle. Mid-travel truck hasn't gone full tuck yet, while the Dirk King truck is at full tuck, so the rebound's going to be real bad. They get off that first obstacle, and SVC's truck is still, the mid-travel truck is still making contact with the ground, while the Dirk King truck is completely off the ground. Do you guys see that? So that's the limitations of travel, right? It's only got 12 inches as opposed to 14 and 16, which what the SVC mid-travel can do. No amount of tuning is going to help with that. Yes, you can't tune the back end so it's not bucking as much, so it doesn't overload, but that's a drawback of this kit because it only has 12 inches of travel. You lose contact with the trail, and a good kit is the one that keeps as much contact as possible with the trail is going to run the smoothest. Now, as we start going through it, because of that lack of contact and because he's rebounding, at that next hill, he is already at tuck again while the SVC front end is up, which that's what you want. You want that front end up and the back end squatting when you're going through whoops. The Dirk King truck isn't doing that because of the line he picked and because it needs a little bit of dialing in. And then they come off of that. And again, look at the difference in droop. Just look at the difference in droop from the mid-travel truck compared to the Dirk King truck. That matters. Inches matter off-road, and even just the small difference of 2 inches of travel makes a huge difference to what you can do, right? SVC truck's got plenty of travel, while the Dirk King truck is not. And again, guys, this is not a bad on the Dirk King kit because it did it. It did it. It wasn't pretty, but it did it. It can handle that type of trail, and this is what I was telling you guys, that it builds confidence. This kit can build confidence, and if you learn how to drive it, you can do things that you didn't think you could do. Yes, the SVC mid-travel kit is way more capable, but it's also a completely different price point. I think it's almost double the cost of the Dirk King kit. Some benefits to drawback there. Not everybody has the budget to go full crazy SVC mid-travel, so the Dirk King kit is a good way to get into the hobby and keep up with the big boys. Now, just for shits and giggles, let's take a look at how the pre-runners and the long travel trucks, the true long travel trucks, handle that, because it's just a beautiful thing. This is Pedro's truck. It's an Evil Manufacturing pre-runner. He was taking it easy that day because he was having some problems with brakes, and even taking it easy, this thing was just impressive going through the trails. Blitzkrieg truck, this thing was impressive. Again, not tuned, but it went about 15-20 miles an hour faster than the rest of us, and it handled it so much better. That is a cool kit. It's a cool kit. That's all you need to know. That's a cool kit. Let's take a look at Pedro's truck through there. That was just cool. I love watching these kind of trucks going through there, man. It's always cool to see different kind of things handling something and making it look like nothing. But that's a big price for it. That's a $150,000 build. All right, guys, so that's it for the actual run footage. Again, overall, I was impressed with it. My thoughts on this kit is that it's a good option. It's an affordable option to get into the hobby and really have some fun with the truck, right? Because, and I'm going off of notes here, guys. There's a lot to cover here, so I have my notes on here from I had the discussion I had with Pedro. So the kit's very affordable. Kit with axles is around $5,200 to $6,000, right, depending on shipping and all that stuff. So it's a pretty good price point considering what you get. You're gonna spend another, what, in shocks is about $3,000 per pair at minimum, plus the rack in the back, plus the bump stop. So you're looking at probably total build cost anywhere between $17,000 to $20,000. So it's pretty impressive what you get for the amount of money you pay for. If you try to go build a similar setup like this setup right here with the SVC kit, to redo that, this truck is about $25,000 to $40,000, $20 to $25K just for the front end alone. And once you add everything else, fenders, tires, everything you need, you're looking at a $45,000 build, right? Whereas the Dirk King build is a little bit cheaper. So in that respect, it's a good kit and it's an affordable kit to get people out there. Because again, the goal of this channel is to get people out there on the trails. The more people that are willing to come out, the more people we have to go play with. You know, this is my release. This is what I do for fun. I go out there and play, and I go out there and check out trucks. Would I buy this kit? And the answer is no. The reason is because for the type of off-roading that I do, I'm usually up front. I'm always getting surprised by obstacles and all that stuff. I need a kit that's more capable with more travel, and it has more reinforcement. Reinforcement is a must for me because of the stuff I'm hitting. I'm always getting surprised being the lead. Trails are constantly changing. Doesn't matter from week to week. There's a little bit of rain out there, it can change the trails. I would say definitely look at alternatives like the SVC kit, Blitzkrieg, HM, RPG, because you can get a whole lot more capability for a little bit extra money. You get more cushion with those other kits. The main contention that I have with this kit is the name. It shouldn't be called the Long Travel. You know, Dirk King even makes other kits. They make race kits that are way more capable. I was looking at their website. Their standard Long Travel kit for most other platforms is around 17 inches of travel. They're very capable kits. They're not really F150 guys, Raptor guys. They're just starting to get into it. And I know that they're developing a more capable Raptor kit from what we heard from talking to the owner here. And I think those are going to be the better option than this kit, especially for somebody like me that's constantly going out there, dealing with obstacles, dealing with surprises and all that stuff. I need that extra cushion, so I would spend a little bit more and get another kit. And at the same time too, like, you can build a Raptor swap truck for much less. You guys have seen the video. We have that video on the channel. It is from a couple years ago, and you could build a Raptor swap truck, have very similar performance for about $5,000. And assuming you have to pay for parts new or pay like current rates, which things have gone up quite a bit, you're looking at maybe $10,000 max to build a Raptor swap truck, which is about half the price of this kit. Mind you, this Dirk King kit's more capable, but if you're really budget conscious, the Raptor swap is the better way to go, right? Because you can get very similar capability at a much lower price point. And that's the reason why this doesn't work, right? Because the Long Travel name is the real problem with this kit. The kit itself is a good option. It's affordable. It's capable. It can do what they say. Dirk King is a solid company. It's just the name is wrong, right? I think Raptors, when they came out, they really redefined suspensions and what is capable, right? The 2010, when the Gen 1 first came out, really changed the game. And no other manufacturer has really come close. Yes, the TRX is out there, and yes, the TRX is pretty good, but it's not as good as the current Gen 3. The Gen 3 smokes it. And it's not about horsepower off-road, guys. It's about suspension travel, and the Gen 3 suspension with the live valve shocks is way more capable than the TRX. GM doesn't really have anything. Mind you, the Colorado ZR2 is a really good truck, but it's not Raptor performance. It's a different class. Silverado, That's kind of a joke. The Silverado ZR2, that's not really an off-road rig. Same thing with the TRD Pro full-size trucks from Toyota. Those aren't really true off-road rigs, not like a Raptor is, right, for fast off-roading. You know, the Raptors really redefined it because they came right off the gate with a very capable truck. Some even called it a long travel truck from the factory. And they did the Baja 1000 its first year out, and it was a very impressive truck. This kit right here, Dirk King's F150 kit with only 12 inches of travel, it's not a long travel kit, again, because the F-150 Raptor exists. And if it was a Toyota, it doesn't matter, right? Because the Toyota, you know, I saw their long travel kit for the Toyota, the Tacoma. Very impressive kit at 13.5 inches of travel. That truck is about 2,000 pounds less, way more capable truck, and that should be called a long travel because the stock stroke on a almost like 4 to 5 inches is very little. So that kit is a true long travel kit for that truck. For the F-150, the Raptor exists and it has to change. And honestly, if you're going to do something like this, you're better off going with one of the kits from SVC or something like that and doing a shock tower upgrade. Companies like Camberg and Crazy House Customs both do shock tower upgrades, so you can run Gen 2 shocks, right? You can run 8-inch stroke shocks and be able to get the same capability that a mid-travel Gen 2 Raptor gets from a stock F-150 at a lower price point. So that would be my recommendation, right? For somebody like me that's always out there really pushing their trucks. I've already gone to 2 trucks that I've killed over the years, so I need something that's a little bit stronger, more reinforced than what you saw here. And honestly, right, like if you're going to build something like this too, and this is where I think the economics don't make sense. Let's say you build something like this. He started off with the Platinum, so it's more expensive trucks. We're not going to use that because most people wouldn't. But let's say you started off with an XLT or something like that, 4-wheel drive. It's about a $35,000 truck. You add this kit on there, you're at about $55,000. You can get into an entry-level Raptor, a little bit older, more mileage, for about the same price and have the same capabilities right off the bat. You can get an extended warranty on that thing, depending on where you buy it from. So again, that's where the economics of this kit doesn't make sense, right? I think it's really capable, but the fact that it's advertised as long travel is what really kills it, right? Most people look at it, they see long travel, they see 12 inches, and they ignore the kit on the F-150 side because they see it has less travel than a stock Raptor. But it is a capable kit, and I think Dirk King, if you guys are watching, not sure if you are, I'd recommend renaming it. If you rename this kit, it's a solid kit. It does what it advertises. It does it well, and it does it better than a stock Raptor. It's not long travel. It's something else. It's a Raptor swap alternative is what I call it. Let's name it something else because this kit deserves a better shake from the Raptor community. You know, and at the end of the day, this kit was very capable on the trails. It did really good. I was really impressed with what we saw. I think it's just, it needs a little bit extra for somebody like me. I need more reinforcement. And I hope this video kind of helps you guys have those discussions with your builders, right? If you're just starting out and you want to go slow, that kit's good. But if you want to eventually build up, run with mid-travel trucks, run with all the other Raptor runs, you want to go to Baja, you want to start having those conversations with your builders about extra reinforcement, right? Better reinforcement on the lower control arms, better plating on the frame to deal with those weak points that are designed to be crumple zones, you know, that kind of stuff. Make decisions based on what you want to run, and keep in mind sometimes that may mean increasing your budget. Like I'm running within the budget of a mid-travel now. Love it, love this thing. And a lot of guys are asking me, why don't you get a cage? Why don't you get this? Why don't you get that? It's like, that's out of my budget. I want to run with this. I can maintain this. I can afford the cost of doing the maintenance on this. And believe me, it's a lot. We're going to do a video of what it took, you know, the amount of money we spent rehabbing this thing because we got nothing for free. And it's a lot of work. And we've done a lot of the work ourselves too. Honestly, at the end of the day, this kit is great for the fact that it's gonna allow more people to run the trails. Getting F-150 guys on the trails is great to me. I'm the type that I don't care if you show up with whatever rig you want. As long as you have a good attitude and you drive within the capabilities of that rig and you have fun, that's all that matters. Getting people on the trails is what matters. Finally, in closing, I want to thank everybody that helped us make this video. Big thank you to the owner for coming out and risking his truck. Big thank you to the drone pilot. You got some really cool footage, man, so appreciate that. And then big thank you to Pedro at Dynamic Weapon Solutions. He's the one that made this video happen. There was a lot of silliness on the back end of this thing, and at the end of the day, none of that matters, right? I don't really like the owner because of the silliness that happened in the back end of this thing, but again, the owner doesn't matter. I wanted to see what this kit can do, and that's what we did. This video was all about that, and I hope this video helps you guys have those conversations you should be having with your builders. And don't just take one company's word for it, right? Shop around, guys. Shop around. Talk to all the different shops. Everybody talks shit on each other. Everybody claims different numbers and all that stuff. Who cares about that stuff? Talk to a couple of different shops. See what they tell you based on how you want to run your truck. Make your decisions from there. I hope this video helps you guys make an informed decision so you know what you're getting into so that you can have fun out there. Because at the end of the day, guys, this is something I say at the beginning of all my drivers meetings. Leave the ego at the door. We're out here to have fun. We're out here to enjoy the trails, enjoy the scenery, and talk trucks. Leave the ego at home. Have fun. It's not a race. Let's make it home. Let's have some fun and enjoy the scenery. With that, guys, thanks a lot for watching. questions and comments below. Hopefully it doesn't turn into a shit show like the first video. And let me know your thoughts on this. Thanks for watching. See you guys in the next one.